Terragrunt is a very useful tool that is a wrapper for your Terraform configurations to keep them dry. Dry stands for do not repeat yourself. Let's take a closer look at the benefits of using Terragrunt. We have a repo here, and I'm running this in codespaces, and you can run this as well in codespaces. So you're going to have Terragrunt already installed for you, as you can see here. We'll also have Terraform installed as well. All the necessary binaries are here. So Terraform version. So you don't have to worry about building this in your own environment. This all works for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to do two things. First, we're going to run a Terraform only scenario, and then we're going to run a Terragrunt scenario just to show you the difference between the two and how Terragrunt adds more features that are beneficial when you want to make sure you don't repeat yourself, especially when we start looking at multiple environments, so running in dev, test, QA, prod, and also as you expand, as you scale your configuration, also the backend configuration. If you want to go and configure across multiple AWS accounts, maybe one account for each one of those environments for complete isolation, it becomes harder if you're just using pure Terraform code. So first of all, let's take a look at our folder structure. We've got a Terraform only folder and we've got a Terragrunt folder. So what we're going to do in the Terraform only is you'll see that we have a modules folder, and for our example we're going to use WordPress, the WordPress application. And in the modules WordPress folder, you see that we've got a few files here, data file here, or an AWS AMI file to work with either Linux 2 or Ubuntu. Then we have our main script where we're define all the Terraform code. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but basically we're creating a VPC, a private subnet, a couple private subnets for RDS, which is going to be our database, and a public subnet for the EC2 instance. Of course, we're going to spin up the EC2 instance, RDS, all the networking that is necessary. So internet gateway, routing tables, security groups, and so on to get all of our application ready. All this is packaged for us in this module called WordPress. We get an outputs file as well. As you can see, we get the public IP, the RDS endpoint, and just an info output block here to go to the public IP so we can see our WordPress installation. We have a user data, and this is where we're installing, whether we're using Ubuntu or Linux, the Amazon Linux operating system. So you can see here we're installing WordPress and getting WordPress to talk to the database, the RDS database again, and this is for Ubuntu. Of course, we have variables, we got versions, and so on. So really, this is the module for our example. Don't worry about that too much. What we want to highlight really is how we're going to use this and deploy it in multiple environments. So we've got here for simplicity, dev and prod. Of course, you might have dev, staging, QA, test, and so on. But for simplicity, let's just go with dev and prod. In dev, what we're going to have is our main.tf file, and this main.tf file is going to use a Terraform backend. This backend is S3. Here we're going to use a bucket. We call it Tekinade Terragrunt demo, and we have a key here. So WordPress -dev Terraform's TF state in the US East 1 region, and we have a DynamoDB table for locking state. And all we're doing here is we're calling on our AWS WordPress module. As you can see here, referencing the same module that is in the Terraform only folder. And then we're passing in a bunch of variables that have to do with our dev environment. So database name, database user, that's common for both dev and prod. In dev, we're going to use this particular password for database. Again, this is a demo. You don't want to specify this in your Git, or if you do, you need to make sure you change it later. The region US East 1, we're going to use US East 2 in prod. is Ubuntu, so we're gonna use the Ubuntu image. The availability zones, again, everything is US East 1 for dev, and prod is going to be US East 2. The VPC CIDR block and subnets are going to be different for production than what you see here for dev. The public key and private key, will create new ones for prod. The instance type are going to be smaller for the EC2 and RDS for dev, and they're going to be a bit slightly larger for prod, just to keep things a little bit different. But notice that we are actually duplicating our code, right? So a couple of things to notice. First of all, is that we're duplicating the backend. So if you look at the main.tf file in dev versus prod, prod has a different backend key, as you can see here, prod in the key path. And really, the backend block in Terraform cannot be parameterized. Basically, you can't put a variable in here to change it. So that's one thing that Terragrunt helps us with, is that we don't have to repeat this every time for every environment, this backend block. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is you can see that there are common variables that we have to keep repeating between the different environments. We can actually have, with Terragrunt, we can have one place where we can define all these common variables, and then the specific variables per environment we can specify for each environment. The other thing that we're repeating ourselves is the output. So if you notice that the output for dev and the output for prod is pretty much the same. We're not making any difference here, or there is no difference between, you know, the IP that we're showing, the public IP, the RDS endpoint, and the info from a Terraform configuration perspective. So definitely there are a few things that we're duplicating the code with, and notice that we're trying as much as possible with pure Terraform to be as not repeating ourselves as much as possible by utilizing modules. And if you ever heard me before, I always stress the fact of using modules for reusable code. So basically, we didn't grab this WordPress application, put it in dev and prod. That would be a lot more duplication. We actually took it outside as a module, and we're calling it from within the dev environment and the prod environment. All right, so that's what we've got. Let's go ahead and deploy this, and let's go clear out here and go to our Terraform only folder, and let's go to dev, and from dev, actually, what do we have here? We've got environments, so environments, dev, and let's clear here, ls. Okay, so we're in the proper folder. What I'll do is I'm going to remove these. I was testing this before, but I'm going to remove these so we can start from the beginning. And let's put this on the left like that, so you can see a little bit better. All right, so what we can do is we're going to create an SSH, a public private key pair. So let's copy this and leave the passphrase empty. So just hit enter, hit enter. We get our public and private keys. Let's make sure that our private key is has the proper permissions. So just read only, so that we can SSH into the EC2 instance once it gets created. And from here, you need to make sure that if you're running Terraform only, that you have an S3 bucket and a DynamoDB table if you're going to use a remote backend for your Terraform code, which is highly recommended that you don't use your local storage here to store your Terraform state. If you're going to start working with a team or in a team, you need to make sure that multiple people can have access to the state file. So you have to have a remote state file. The backend here, as we can see, is referencing a bucket and a DynamoDB table. So make sure that these have been created. We'll see later that Terragrunt actually can create all this for us without us having to go outside outside of Terraform and creating it. There are ways of actually creating it with Terraform and then reincorporating or migrating the state back into Terraform so that you can actually manage the S3 bucket from within Terraform. But Terragrunt actually takes care of all of that for us. All right, so once you, and you can follow this guide to see how you can create this S3 bucket and DynamoDB table. So once that's done, all we need to do is just run Terraform init. And that will initialize our backend. It will initialize it in the S3 bucket that we talked about. And then from there, we're going to run our Terraform plan, Terraform apply, and what you're used to doing for regular Terraform, of course. So we'll run this both in the dev environment and the prod environment. So that's what we'll need to do. So let's go ahead and just run Terraform apply right here. And while this runs, let's create a new terminal. And in this new terminal, let's call this, let's rename this to dev. So we know we're in the dev environment. And let's rename this prod. So we know this terminal is for prod. And it's asking us whether we want to commit this. So yes, we want to apply. So we're going to go ahead and apply. Let's see if prod is up. Yes, it is. Good. So let's go to our dev cd environment. Let's see. It's Terraform only, environment prod, and Terraform apply. Terraform init first. And I probably need to grab my AWS S3. Let's see, error configuration, no valid credentials for, yeah. So I do need to get my credentials. So I'm going to have to do that. And we'll come back. I need to export my credentials for this new terminal because I have it running in the other dev terminal. All right, so I exported our access keys and ran Terraform init again, and it is successful. Let's run Terraform apply. And while that runs the plan, let's check on our dev environment. It does take quite a bit of time, especially for the RDS instance to come up. So we'll definitely have to pause the video until it's complete. But let's just get the prod environment up and running first. And we forgot to create the public key for the prod environment. So let's go ahead and create a new public key by running this command and changing the or modifying the permissions on that file. And once that's done, let's run Terraform apply once again. That should take us to the apply prompt, and we should be well on our way. There we go. And right now, just pause the video, and once everything's complete, we'll come back and see our WordPress application already deployed. All right, looks like we have finished here. So we got prod, we got dev, and all we need to do is just open a new browser window with this. Here we go with this link, and you can see this is our dev WordPress application. You can see it's just, the setup that we have here for our WordPress site. So that's for dev, and of course prod, you'll have the same thing, different environment altogether, different region and everything else that we saw, but again, a WordPress app in production as well. So that's really what we wanted to show if we were using Terraform on its own. Now you might say, Sam, I mean, that wasn't that bad, right? Like we had, just a little bit of duplication here and there. And maybe in this example a little bit, but as you expand and as you grow, and now you're going to have multiple applications, hundreds of applications in your organization in different environments. We only looked at dev and prod, but you're probably going to have a lot more than that. So managing all that becomes a headache if you continue just using something like Terraform, especially the Terraform open source on its own. All right, so now let's move on and take a look at how we run this all in Terragrunt, right? So what we'll do is we'll just destroy this environment, these two environments, and then we'll go ahead and launch the same application using Terragrunt. So I'm going to go ahead and destroy this for both prod and for dev. And we'll be back to run Terragrunt. All right, so destroy is complete. Let's clear here. And for prod, let's do the same and clear. And let's go back to our guide. So we're going to try Terragrunt. We're in the Terragrunt folder now. And once again, we've got the module WordPress. Not much has changed. The only thing I want to talk about really is the main. And here, all we're doing is we're putting an empty Terraform backend S3 block that's needed because we're going to override this basically with Terragrunt. So that's all. Other than that, everything is exactly the same as the Terraform only folder. So let's minimize this and take a look at our environments. Once again, dev and prod. But now let's expand this a little bit. And really, let's remove these from here. So it gives us a better view. So all you see here is that we've got our dev environment has just this Terragrunt HCL file, and prod has another Terragrunt HCL file, and that's it. And then there is a root Terragrunt HCL file. So let's take it one at a time. The root Terragrunt HCL file defines our remote state, and if you notice in the remote state here, we have the ability to get this as a variable or a function. So what's happening here is we're defining one bucket, giving it a name, and I'm keeping it simple. You probably want to have a different bucket per environment to securely isolate the prod from dev, for example. I'm just keeping it simple, one bucket for both, and we're actually differentiating based on key. And here you can see Terragrunt WordPress and then a function called path relative to include, which basically is going to drop dev in here or prod in here. So based on which folder our environment is in, it's going to change the key. So that helps us parameterize our backend. Okay, so that's the backend piece. The other piece is the inputs. All these inputs are common to both our dev and prod, so I can put them in here, and then we can call on them from both the dev and prod Terragrunt configuration. So now I'm in dev, and in dev, all I'm doing is I have this include block, which grabs everything from the parent folder that we saw, which is the root Terragrunt configuration file. Then we have a Terraform block that specifies the source, and our source is the module's WordPress, which is 2 levels higher right here, and it's the WordPress module that we saw earlier. And in practice, you're probably going to reference a module that sits in GitHub, for example, or somewhere else, and reference it based on a tag with a version. So in that case, you might have a version for dev that is maybe slightly higher than prod as you're testing, and once all the tests have completed, you can upgrade your module or your prod environment to use the module that's been used in dev if everything is successful in the testing process. So the that availability or that feature is not available in Terraform, in just pure Terraform, the ability to change the source depending on the version that you're running, which is, again, very important as you're promoting your Terraform code between different environments. The other piece here finally is the inputs, and these are the specific inputs to our dev environment in this case. So again, there is no duplication in code whatsoever, and I don't even have to specify the output as we saw in the Terraform example. We don't even have to specify the output. The output will be grabbed directly from the module that we have here. So the output of the module, which is right here. So I don't have to take that output, pass it out to the root module as I did with the pure Terraform example. Same thing with the Terragrunt configuration file inside of the prod environment. A very similar configuration. The inputs are different, of course, because this is the prod. You can see T2 small, for example, and DB T2 small that we're using. The availability zones are different. The region is different. The password we're using for database is different, and so on and so forth. And this again would be different based on what version that we would like to use for prod for our particular module. So that's all I want to show you from a configuration perspective. Let's go ahead and deploy this. Very similar to what we saw before with Terraform. What you can do is run Terragrunt commands, which are very similar to Terraform commands. So what we can do here is run Terragrunt. Actually, let's go into the proper folder, and this will be Terragrunt environments dev, and let's run Terragrunt init. You can actually run Terragrunt apply directly, and it will inherently run Terragrunt init. But let's follow the regular process and just follow what we usually do: Terragrunt init, Terragrunt plan, and Terragrunt apply. And if we hadn't, like, if this is the first time we're running this and we don't have the bucket and the DynamoDB table already created for us, you'll get a prompt, and Terragrunt's going to ask you, oh, I don't see this bucket and I don't see this DynamoDB table. Do you want me to create those for you for your remote state? And then you can say yes, and it will create it for you, and away you go, which is very, very handy. All right, so let's now run Terragrunt. I'm just going to run apply right away. It's going to give us a prompt. It's going to run plan anyways, and then we can continue. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do the same for prod. Terragrunt environment prod, and let's run Terragrunt apply directly this time to save us some time. And of course, we got the error that we don't have the public key. I keep forgetting that, so let's do that for both environments. So let's create our public key, private public keys, like that. No passphrase, and let's update the permissions. I bet you prod also needs the same, so let's do that as well. There we go, and then change permissions. Okay, and let's rerun our Terragrunt apply. Rerun Terragrunt apply, and just wait for our plan to run, and then we should be good to go. As you can see, same thing as if you're running Terraform apply. So all looks good. Let's enter yes for dev, and we're running into an issue here. Change in the backend configuration has been detected. So I need to run Terraform or Terragrunt init reconfigure. I probably was messing around here before, so let's fix this. And in the meantime, dev is already taken off, and it's deploying our environment for us. So let's just wait a little bit on prod to get configured for the backend. Successfully configured the backend S3. That looks great. Okay, let's run Terragrunt apply. And once it gets going, I'm going to, of course, pause the video, and we'll get back to it once everything is complete. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, looks like we have completed here, and it's ready to go. So let's take a look at dev. Once again, let's open our link here, and that should take us to our WordPress installation. Once again, let me bring it over to this window, and there you have it. So that's the dev environment. If you go to prod, once again, let's go and click on our link here, and there you go. So we got prod and we've got dev. All looks great. One thing I want to show you is the S3 bucket where everything is deployed. So let me grab that real quick. Before I show you a new feature or a good feature here in with Terragrunt something called run all, command that's called run all. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at our S3 bucket. So let's refresh. This is a Tech-N8 Terragrunt demo, and you can see we've got Terragrunt, and we've got WordPress. WordPress was used with the Terraform only deployments or scenarios. Here I have the Terragrunt WordPress, and I've got dev and prod. So in dev I have one state file, and in prod I have another state file. Again, all was done by Terragrunt for us. So that's all great. Now what we want to do is I want to go over how to use this command called run all. And this command run all can be used for many of the actual Terragrunt commands. So if I go and I have to go up a couple levels, I just need to go up one level actually, and now I'm in the environment, in the Terragrunt environments folder. So if I ls that, you can see my dev and my prod folders with the root Terragrunt HCL configuration. So what you can do is you can run Terragrunt run all destroy. What this is going to do, it can run the Terragrunt destroy command against both my environments at the same time in parallel. So definitely be careful with this one in this case when you're doing destroy, but it can speed up things for you very quickly if you want to test things across multiple environments at the same time, whether you're using maybe Terragrunt plan, Terragrunt verify, Terragrunt apply, and so on. So you can see here the message: the stack at workspaces env0 Terragrunt environments will be processed in the following order for command destroy. Group 1, the module workspaces env0 Terragrunt environments dev, and then prod. Warning: are you sure you want to run Terragrunt destroy in each folder of the stack described above? If there is no because there is no undo, so be careful. And then we're going to say yes, and that will go ahead and destroy both the dev and the prod environments for us at the same time in parallel. So while that runs, I hope this video has helped you to gain a little bit of appreciation for why using Terragrunt over just pure Terraform. And what we've touched on are a couple of the most prominent reasons why you would do that. There are other reasons as well, such as using pre and post hooks with Terragrunt, using Terragrunt with multiple AWS accounts, and others as well. I just wanted to touch on some of the main ones that people use, and that's for using with multiple environments. So hopefully this video has helped you understand Terragrunt a little bit better, and I will see you in another video.